Welcome to Season 2 of Great Episodes in Gibbs History, presented by Gibbs Farm, a program of the Ramsey County Historical Society. After an almost normal season of on-site field trips, the farm is tucked away for winter, and we're ready to get back into virtual content. Today, we're talking about the unearthing of the lost Gibbs house. For a fuller context, we recommend going back to watch the first video on this subject, which will be linked down below. Last time, we looked at Jane and Heman's first home in Minnesota. We talked about what the sod dugout looked like and a bit about what it was like to live there. But most of the information we shared came from Jane's recollections later in life and from the couple's son Frank, retelling stories he remembered hearing from his parents. But there's more. We've been holding out on some things. Technically, the house has been gone for around 150 years, but it actually made a brief reappearance during the summer of 1995. The summer of 1995. Friends was on TV, Toy Story was in theaters, and the Frappuccino had just been introduced. It had always been common knowledge that there had been a claim shanty or sod dugout house on the Gibbs property. Plenty of family memories that the Gibbs children, none of whom ever lived in the dugout, were well versed in. The youngest daughter, Lily, even drew a sketch of the house based on her mother's description. The problem was, by the 1990s, nobody was totally sure where it had been. You know how annoying it is when you just forget the location of an entire building. It was suspected that the dugout had been somewhere to the southeast of the subsequent, still standing Gibbs farmhouse, so that's where the search began. At this time, the executive director of the Ramsey County Historical Society was Priscilla Farnham, and she had been interested in trying to excavate the dugout from the very beginning of her time at the Historical Society. But many other projects were already in the works, and those had to come first. Finally, during a meeting of the board of directors in January 1994, Priscilla again brought up the idea to excavate the sod house. It turned out that the time was right and the right people were in place. The board executives were enthusiastic, and within minutes, the board president, Joanne England, had appointed a sod house task force. Fun fact, Joanne is still involved with Gibbs Farm. I guess she really digs this place. A grant was secured to fund the dig, and the task force chose archaeologists from the University of Minnesota for the work. They poured through the Gibbs records, and early in the summer of 1995, they began to excavate the suspected location. Later, Priscilla described the progress this way. The archaeological investigation was an amazing process. Little by little, dirt was removed from the suspected site of the sod house, and when the defined rectangle was about 4 feet deep, a floor pattern began to emerge. The archaeologists discovered uniform ridges of dirt they identified as having been formed by the wooden floor joists, which had since decayed. This was an unexpected discovery. Most sod dugouts had nothing more than a dirt floor, probably with some sort of rug. The Gibbs house had a milled pine floor. Good call, Jane and Heman. These boards would have been fitted closely together, as there were very few items found in the dirt beneath the floor. In 1854, when the Gibbs moved into their second house, the first section of the current farmhouse building, it seems the sod house was used as storage for a time when the useful materials were removed and reused for different purposes around the farm, until finally the hole was filled in with materials from nearby building projects. The archaeologists were even able to distinguish diagonal layering of this fill material, which meant that it was dumped into the hole by wheelbarrow. Aside from floor beams, floorboards, and nails, no other building materials were identified. The archaeologists found a plethora of bits and pieces that paint a bit of a picture of the Gibbs' early life on the farm. More than 200 nails, 726 shards of window glass, broken chinaware, bottles, combs, mirrors, buttons, parts of a watch, chalkboard slate, bits of discarded shoes, parts of broken farm equipment, an ox shoe, hundreds of small chalk mortar stones, and 3 coins. All in all, there were about 5,000 artifacts uncovered just within the perimeter remains of the walls. The archaeologists reported to the sod house committee that they thought the area around the outside sod house was likely to be rich in archaeological artifacts. Unfortunately, lack of funds meant the dig needed to be wrapped up at the end of the summer. In the end, a blue tarp was carefully placed within the dig to create a clearly defined space for future work, and the excavation site was refilled. Today, the dig site is marked for visitors with signs that show photos, diagrams, and illustrations of the dig and the discoveries. It's exciting to note that there are still more materials and information to be uncovered regarding the Gibbs family in this historic site, which is why you should make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the Gibbs Farm YouTube channel so that you won't miss future installments of great episodes in Gibbs history.